Hello everyone, my name is Erin and I'm the editorial representative and the public relations officer of the Southern Branch of the Irish Patchwork Society. I'm recording the presentation that I made on Saturday at our branch meeting about the Cathedral window pincushion. I'm doing this the Monday afterwards. Please forgive me if any little boys cough. My sons are taking their nap right now and they have a cold, so they may cough and I may have to pause this, but hopefully not. So let's get started. The reason we decided to do these little bits projects, we're going to be doing one this month and one next month. We decided to give members a chance to finish their 2015 blocks of the months. So we've had 2 members of the group finish theirs. They are in the March meeting recap blog post, so if you want to check those out, be sure to do so. I am currently designing the block of the month for 2016. So that's going to debut in June, but we're doing these little projects between now and then in order to give our members a break between the block of the month projects. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's get started. So the first thing is, what exactly are cathedral windows? They're comprised of individual squares that are folded precisely and sewn with curves to create small windows. They became popular in the 1900s as a way to showcase scraps of expensive fabric in muslin. And depending on your project, you may not need batting or backing like a traditional quilt due to the construction of the box. So I found some projects on the internet to inspire you. The first one you can find in Love, Patchwork, and Quilting, issue 6. This is the Cathedral window and Cathedral window quilt and cushion there. Just from I don't have this exact issue, but just from looking at this, it looks like the cathedral windows are maybe about I would guess at least 10 inches large. So just to give you an idea of the scale there of the big quilt. But I think that's a beautiful quilt. Another thing that can use to inspire you, I made this for my mom for Christmas. This is the Amy Butler Weekender bag with the cathedral window pockets. There's one on the front here, and then you can see the one on the back in the mirror there, just barely. I was inspired to make this from Sew in Love Handmade. She was participating in an online competition called Sewvivor. That's S-E-W Vivor, Sewvivor. There were different categories in that competition. There was one challenge was working with hexagons. One challenge was to make a bag, which this was hers. One challenge was to make a quilt, and so she decided that she would spice up her weekender with cathedral windows in these big pockets. So I was inspired by her to make this one for my mom, and you'll see the one that inspired me a little bit later in the presentation. So that's just another thing you can do, add it onto pockets. And there's also a really good tutorial from the MODA Bake Shop. If you go to MODA Bake Shop and just search for cathedral window, it'll pop up. And this uses charm squares. So if you have a pack of those that you'd like to use, the tutorial that's written on the MODA Bake Shop is done by Angela Nash of My 3 Sons. You can find more inspiration on our Pinterest board. The website is right there, listed out. Or if you go to ipscork.com, which is our blog / website, on the right sidebar, maybe about a third of the way down, I think, there's a small red square with a P inside it, and that's a link to our Pinterest board. So you just you click on that and it should take you there. And just to show you, here's the kinds of things that you'll see, and that cathedral window weekender bag that originally inspired me is right here. So there's all different kinds of projects on our Pinterest board. There's pincushions, there's a table runner, there's quilts, just all sorts of different things. So go ahead and check that out. And before I go any further, I want to mention that you can download all of these instructions. They've been uploaded to our website at ipscork.com. There's several places on the website that you can find them. If you are watching this fairly recently after our March meeting, which was on the 12th, it should be in it is in our March meeting recap blog post. If you're watching this months down the road, that might be a little bit hard to find. In that case, up at the top of our page, there's a tab called Demonstration Resources, and you'll find it there as well. So it's in multiple places on our blog. Things that you're going to need are one large square of 10.5 inches. I chose mine for white. I used white for that large 10.5 inch square. You're going to need one medium-sized square that's 7 inches for the back of the pincushion. You're going to need one small square that's 4¼ inches for the inside of the cathedral window. You're going to need some scrap triangles. You're going to need an iron. You're going to need a file folder. And you're going to need a button if you desire to have one. So the first step is that you're going to make a template out of thin cardboard. So that's what that file folder is for. I didn't have a file folder here in my house. I did have a leftover cereal box from my boys that I had left over from when I made the weekender bag. I don't recommend that that you use a cereal box, because you'll see towards the bottom there I had to the 9-inch square that I needed, I couldn't make out of the entire front of the cereal box. So I had to include sort of that fold line, that crease line, and I don't really recommend that you do that, but that's what I had available to me at the time. So you can try it. I made perfectly acceptable pincushions, but I don't recommend it. So you're going to start by doing all of the folds of the cathedral window first. The first fold that you do is pressing in the corners, and the reason you do all this pressing in of the corners and then we're going to press the edges over, that's because you don't want any raw edges showing. So once you get all those corners folded in, working one at a time, you're going to fold over the edges, over that template. And this is why you want just a thin cardboard, because if you used like a thick, like a shipping box kind of cardboard, that would create too much bulk to fold over. So that's all you need the template for, those two folds. Next, you're going to take the template out and fold that square that you have in half and press. And then you're going to unfold that fold and fold the other way and press, and that's going to create that kind of plus sign in the center. That's the plus sign crease in the center is a little bit more accurate. So the next thing you do is you're going to place that piece of fabric with the edge folds facing up, and you're going to bring the corners into that plus crease that you made in the center. And when you do this, you're going to make sure that you get your corners as perfect as you can, like that corner. And that's going to help with the subsequent steps. So get all of those corners folded in, and then do not change the position of your fabric on the table. And then you're going to fold in the corners of the squares of that square that you made. So you're going to make two folds kind of on top of each other. Once you get the folds all done, you're going to take that 4¼ inch square and place it inside that cathedral window. You're going to lift up that last fold that you did and place that square inside. Once you do that, you're going to take this over to your sewing machine, and using 2 or 3 stitches, you're going to sew the opposing triangles down. When I first do this, I have it like this, like you can see with the 2 flaps kind of out of the way. I sew 2 or 3 stitches, making sure to backstitch, and then you do the other one, and you're going to end up with something that looks like this, something with a little plus sign. And now you're going to fold back those edges that you can kind of see that are, you can see the blue peeking out from. But before you do that, you have to decide on your final design of the pincushion. You can have it with no contrasting fabric. So this one just has the that blue floral is the 4 1/4 inch square, and then I just had the folded square of the white. So that's the no contrast fabric. Or you can do the same contrast fabric, which I kind of thought this one had a little bit of a Christmassy feel. Or you can make it look really scrappy and use all different fabrics. And these are all leftover fabrics that I had from our Block of the Month quilt. So this is Miss Kate by Bonnie and Camille for MODA Fabrics. So I decided on the scrappy layout for this one that I took pictures of. You're going to want to decide where you want those triangles, and really these were just scraps. I made sure that there was a 90-degree angle that I could put pointing towards that sewed plus sign in the center. But other than that, I didn't measure. I didn't even use a rotary cutter, I don't think. When you get ready to fold over those edges, do not have it like I have here with the photograph. I found that it was a little bit easier if you pulled it back so there was about 1/4 inch showing of the white fabric that you fold over. It didn't lay as nicely when I tried to sew it like this. So you're going to just use your finger and slowly fold over that edge. Pin if you need to, but I found with a small project like this I didn't really need to. You're going to put this under your sewing machine. I like to start in the center. You backstitch at the beginning and the end, and you just go as close to the folded edge as you can. So you just slowly fold it over, and because this is on the bias, you should not have any problems folding it over. It should go nice and easy. And you're just going to move, I found it easier to move in an anti-clockwise direction. But again, do what works for you. If you find that moving clockwise is easier, do that. And again, you backstitch at the beginning of the end, and that is the end of the cathedral window portion of this. I left, you'll see in this picture that those scrap triangles I left kind of overhanging. I just left it overhanging until we got to a later step. So don't feel like you have to trim at this point. So the next thing you do is you're going to prepare the backing of your pincushion. You're going to take that 7-inch square, and I use this blue floral, and you're going to cut it in half, and then you're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam, making sure to leave an opening in the center. And it's kind of hard to see, and I can't unfortunately use a little mouse to point it out to you, but there is a break in the middle of that seam because you're going to do the turning, and then you're going to hand stitch that close at the end. Because of the bulk of the cathedral window, you're going to need a larger opening than you usually probably would leave, so just be aware of that. Once you've sewn that, you're going to press your seam open. And then you're going to place your cathedral window on top of that backing fabric. Now, I believe I'm sewing a different one than you saw with the scrap triangles on here, so you don't see them here because it's a different pincushion that I was working on and taking photographs of. But you'll want to make sure that all of the right sides are touching. Don't make the mistake that I did and sew it incorrectly, and then you have to rip out all your sewing. And I use those fold lines that you can still kind of see, that plus sign in the center. I use that to line up my cathedral window on the backing fabric. So once you do that, you're going to sew around the perimeter, backstitching at the beginning of the end. And a question just came up at the meeting, if you could do it so you had just a solid piece of fabric on the back, and then you leave your space for turning here, and that's perfectly acceptable. Whatever you find works best for you, do that. I personally thought it would be easier to hand sew the seam in the back, so that's what I did. But again, do what you prefer to do. And once you've sewn the seam and you've trimmed any scrap fabric hanging over, you're going to stuff your pincushion. And I know I'm going to get questions about what I stuffed the pincushion with. Prior to becoming a quilter, I was a knitter and a spinner. And so I have a bunch of processed sheep fleece, and that's what this is. It's just wool, plain, clean wool that I stuffed the pincushion with. And then using a blind stitch, you're going to close the opening in the back. And if you want to sew a button on after the fact, I found that using a shanked button works best. So I found these buttons. Goodness, where did I find these? I think I found these at Hickey's. And your pincushion is complete. One note: if you don't want to use a shanked button and just want to use a regular button with the holes in them, I would recommend sewing that on before you sew the cathedral window to the backing fabric. That step, prior to turning, I would sew it on before you sew it to the backing fabric. So if you have any questions, please contact me at corkips@gmail.com. Again, my name is Erin. I get all of those emails there. And our website is ipscork.com. And then coming in April, we're going to be doing this lovely little patchwork bag. And I will have a few varieties of this, so stay tuned. And that is the end of our show. So please let me know if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions. Again, that's corkips@gmail.com. And our website is ipscork.com. You can find us on Pinterest at the website that I showed you in the presentation. You can find us on YouTube. Just search for the Southern Branch of the Irish Patchwork Society. We have, I believe it's 7 or 8 videos now in our Back to Basics series about basic patchworking skills and tools and things. And then we've got a couple snapshots videos, which is there's snapshots from our last meeting, and then there's snapshots from the Knitting and Stitching show in London that I attended a week and a half ago. So just check all that stuff out, and I guess I will talk to you next month when I have the presentation for the patchwork bag. Thank you for watching.